Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. And today's video is something different on my channel. So it is still Sims 4, but it's my first haunted build for you guys. Now, I got this idea from the lovely Devon Bumpkin. And I know some of you guys will be like, well, you copied his Let's Build Newcrest, now you're copying his haunted builds. I'm not, guys. I've made a note of the haunted builds that he has done, and I am not doing any of the builds that he has done. The only one I might possibly do is the Ancient Ram Inn, and that's because I loved the story that went with that, and I also loved the episode that Ghost Adventures did on that building. So I might do the Ancient Ram Inn, I might not. But other than that, I am sticking to builds that he hasn't done. So I'm not really copying Devon. But also, I love haunted buildings and abandoned buildings, and I visit loads of them in real life. So I thought, why not bring it to my channel on The Sims 4? It's something I love doing, and I'm just very interested in haunted builds and abandoned buildings. So I thought, you know what, I'll just bring it to the channel. So today's video is based on the Pomeroy Castle. Now, I had so much trouble saying that yesterday. I kept saying Pomberry all day yesterday. So the fact that I'm actually managing to get the name right today is a miracle. But anyway, it is the Pomeroy Castle, which you can find in South Devon in the UK. And it's actually not a building that I have visited as of yet. It is a building that I want to go and visit. And once all of this coronavirus malarkey is over, I will be taking a trip to go visit this building. But, you know, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the history about this place, because it's got some quite dark stories that go along with it. And then maybe talk a little bit about the build, have a bit of a catch up with you guys, you know, the usual stuff. So, the history of this castle. So it's thought to be of Norman origin, but once research has been done recently, the castle in fact began in the late 15th century by the Pomeroy family. So the Pomeroys were quite a wealthy family, and they were very, very loyal to king and country. And it's so they were actually involved in the War of the Roses, which was a big war in the UK between the York family and I believe it was the Tudor family. Don't quote me on that. I will quickly look it up. But yeah, it was a big war back in the day. They do teach it briefly at schools in the UK, but not massively. I know we only briefly touched on it. So yeah, it was to take control over the throne of England between the Lancaster House, which was represented by the Red Rose, and the York House, which was represented by the White Rose. And this was sort of mid to late 15th century that this war happened. Now, if you're wondering about House Lancaster and House York, House Lancaster included Henry VIII's family, so that's where the Tudors came from, and House York contained Richard III and his family. And that was actually solved by a marriage between a member of the Lancaster family and a member of the York family. But anyway, it was believed this castle was built for serious defence during that war. And then in 1547, Berry Pomeroy was brought by Edward Seymour. Now, Edward Seymour was the brother of Jane Seymour, who happened to be Henry VIII's third wife and mother to his only son. But Edward was executed in 1552. So the castle was left to his son, and his son built the Elizabethan courtyard area, or courtyard house of this building, which is this little cutout bit on the right hand side of this building. He also renovated the north range of the castle, but all works came to a halt, and by June of 1611 he was in serious financial trouble, and he died in April of 1613, having become the first Baron of his family, and he left all the building works unfinished. So 2 successors followed him, but they made no attempt to complete any of the building work, and both successors were enthusiastic royalists during the Civil War, and the castle was never actually attacked during this war. But later on, in the early 18th century, it was damaged by fire, and after that it became abandoned. Now, like I said, the English Heritage do have control over this building, and I have since found out that there is a cafe area within this building, but that isn't owned by English Heritage, unfortunately. So, as for the ghost stories in this building, there are 2 ghosts that reside here. The first one is known as the White Lady, and she haunts the dungeons of the castle. Now, you'll notice I haven't built the dungeons because there is no evidence or photos of the dungeons or where they are on this building, and so I didn't want to put them in and falsely put them in, guys. But you know, that's just me. If that's something you guys would do when building this castle, then fair enough, but I just didn't want to give you a false representation of the dungeons in this castle. So, those who have seen the White Lady associate feelings of depression, fear and malevolence. So quite dark feelings and quite upsetting feelings. Now, she has been identified as Lady Margaret Pomeroy, who was the wife of Lord Pomeroy. And she was actually imprisoned by her sister, Lady Eleanor, in the dungeons, and she was kept there for nearly 2 decades. Now, it's believed her sister imprisoned her because there was a love rivalry for Lord Pomeroy, and her sister was very envious that she wasn't the wife of Lord Pomeroy. She did feed her for a while and looked after her sister whilst she imprisoned her, but she then decided to take that up a notch and stop feeding her and taking care of her, and eventually Lady Margaret died of starvation in the castle. Now, this all happened when Lord Pomeroy was away. So he went away on a trip, and that's when Lady Eleanor stopped feeding Lady Margaret, and that's when she died. So, it's believed that a blue light can be seen from St Margaret's Tower, which is this tower on the far right, on the same day every year. Now, I don't know what day that is. I hope to find that out so I can visit this building around that time, because I want to see this blue light. I want to see if the rumours are true about it. So yeah, that is the first ghost for this building. The second ghost is the Blue Lady, and she's reported as far back as the 18th century. Now, her story I'm a little bit sceptical about, but she is dressed in a long blue cape with a hood, and that she tries to lure men to their death by seeking help in unsafe areas of the castle. So the castle is quite a windy, bendy castle, and there's a lot of different passageways and random rooms and stuff like that. So it's believed she tries to lure men into these secret passageways and these little rooms, and things like that. And it confuses the men. Once they get to these places, it confuses the men to the point where they end up dying because they can't get out the castle. And it's said that it's because of her that they get so lost. Now, she is supposedly the daughter of an early Norman lord, and after an incestuous relationship with her father, she fell pregnant and gave birth. Now, there is two versions to her story as to what happened after that. The first is that shortly after the baby was born, the father strangled the baby in one of the upper rooms of one of the towers. So that's one version, and for me that feels like the more believable version of the stories. The second one is that she hated the child that much after giving birth that she killed the child herself, and she is now a troubled spirit that can't rest. And she is often seen wringing her hands when people have seen her in the castle. And also at times cries of a murdered infant can be heard throughout the castle. I personally believe the first one, that her father killed the baby to try and cover up his tracks. That's just my personal opinion. You guys may think otherwise, but I personally believe that he tried to cover up his tracks of what he had done, which maybe that's just a modern day thing that people nowadays would do that. But you know, believe what you want to believe. So that is all I've got on this castle history wise. I thought the two ghost stories were quite dark, particularly the first one, the fact that her own sister imprisoned her for so long and then let her die. I found that to be quite a dark and telling story, really. So yeah, that's what I got on this castle. And I just thought, you know what, let's share it with you guys. I thought it was quite cool and quite interesting. And like I say, it's a place I now want to visit. So yeah, I will be doing more of these. So if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to comment down below, and I will certainly give them a go and do some research into them. And yeah, that's it really. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye guys!